There we are. Facebook was being a little funky this morning with the connection. So, here we are. Hello. Good morning. Okay, first, I gotta say that finally, I don't feel like I look tired. Last week was like, it was crazy. The last couple of weeks, I felt like I looked exhausted every day. And it's amazing how your energy levels will shift like your whole face. Like it's like I just, and so, so real quick, don't go anywhere. Good morning. All right, so we're going to talk about mental health today a little bit because that's what health and wellness. So in this jar, and I forgot to make some. In this jar is my own concoction of like a body skincare, just skincare routine. So it's and I'm doing a little video that it's on YouTube actually. There's a video on my YouTube channel, Sensual Energy Alchemy, that talks about me making this. And it's I use a variety of different things. So I buy body butters from this wonderful company called Enhanced by Nature. Jamila, she does all natural products. So that's what you see me wearing sometimes. And then I have my stuff from Bedroom Candy. So sometimes I wear that too. And then I make my own thing, which is shea butter, coconut oil. I use this time around I used more coconut oil. It glides so much smoother. Shea butter's little stuff. And then within this, I add oils that I get from M. Rain, the Magical Mystic, Montario Hampton, the Tantric Alchemist. And this time around, I added in some of the spritz that Tasha Matres makes. Her company escapes me right now. I'm so sorry, y'all. But she has these mists that you can spray in the air. I literally poured some of them in here and just mixed them together. So that's what this is, and that's what I'm wearing today. Because the shea butter and coconut oil is amazing together. But all that to say, we're talking about mental health today because that's part of awareness and it's part of abundance. Like you can't really be abundant if you're stuck mentally. Ironically, I am in the middle of a masterclass with Vishen Lakhiani from Mind Valley. I paused it right now to come do this where we're going to be learning about the Silva. It's the Silva mind control method. I've been reading the book. It's amazing. I have to find it somewhere if I could show it to you guys. Just how to retrain your brain and your mind to really start getting things to activate sooner and faster and getting more in touch with your own abundance. So I'll be working on that this morning. But it was interesting as I was looking, I was like, oh shoot, like I look a little different today. Because I noticed that in my other videos, I was looking like I was like dying. I was. First of all, it was definitely a lack of connection. Like, you all don't understand how much good sex can actually boost your immunity, can boost your anti-aging, can boost, all of the good things that are supposed to happen in your body. I need y'all to understand not just sex, but good sex, where there's an actual connection and there's a flow of the energy. It changes you. It really does. So I always recommend that to people. But getting enough sleep, getting enough water, all of these things, like we think we have to age and just get older, and we really, really don't. Like this body can go a lot of miles if we give it what it needs. The other day I asked you to ask your body, what does it need? What does your body need? Some of y'all think your body needs to lift weights when it really needs like Pilates. Some of you think your body needs to swim when it needs to run. I'm just ask your body what it needs. What does it need to get in order for it to be its best self for you? And I've been working on that this past week because I realized I was really tired. I was run down. My energy levels were low, and it was just not like me. And part of that is also mental health. So I'll read the statement for today. And good morning to everyone. And I'm sorry yesterday if you missed the live. I realized I still had my settings set to like friends, like close friends, because I was talking about my son's birthday, and I usually don't put my kids like on blast on public like that. Okay, day 26. My inner supply instantly and constantly takes on form and experience according to my needs and desires. And as the principle of supply and action, it is impossible for me to have any needs or unfulfilled desires. Okay? Let's say it again. My inner supply instantly and constantly takes on form and experience according to my needs and desires. And as the principle of supply and action, it is impossible for me to have any needs or unfulfilled desires. Now, I was when I read it this morning, the words mental health just kind of came out. And so I want to talk a little bit about, I don't know, because it's not really coming to me fully yet, but but when I read the line, my inner supply instantly and constantly takes on form and experience according to my needs and desires. And as the principle of supply and action, it is impossible. Okay, so I think what came to me was the understanding that part of what happens when we are dealing with different aspects of mental health is that we are disconnected from this abundant mind. We have fully gone into the egoic self. We are fully, when we're dealing with mental, like when we're dealing with depression especially, right, and other mental illnesses, we have gone complete, except for, you know what, and I'm gonna say this is my personal belief, so please don't, I tend to think that people who are schizophrenic and other things, I don't, and even when I majored in psychology, there was a part of me that thought, these people, what if they're accessing other realms and spaces and times and places, and what must it be like to try and wrap all of that around while you're still living here? I mean, some of us don't want to delve into this other stuff because we don't want to hear the voices in our head, right? But can you imagine if you were able to access those parts, but didn't have an understanding of what to do with that or how to navigate it or move that energy? Like I can see how that could become a problem. But I always used to think of that when I thought specifically of schizophrenia, even when I was a psych major, partly because it fascinated me so much. And I just wondered, what if they were just accessing things that the rest of us weren't able to? But I digress. So mental illness a lot of times is a separation of us from that divine source, from that divine connection that we have in ourselves. And if you've ever suffered from depression, I did for over a decade, on and off. I had moments, but it was a decade. You feel like you don't feel any connection to anything. You don't feel a connection to anything higher or greater than yourself. You barely can feel a connection to people. It's almost like it's like you're trapped in your body. And when I speak to my children about it, I would tell them that depression is like being in a well, and it's like you can see the top of the well, and like you're trying to climb out, like you want to try to climb out, and you're scraping against the sides, and you feel like you've gotten somewhere, but it's like you haven't gone but like a foot or 2 feet, and then you get exhausted, you're tired, you're exhausted, you shut down, and you just sit. You just sit and you don't want to move. You just don't want to move. And it feels like the longer you sit, the further away the top of the well gets. And that's what it felt like for me when I was dealing with depression. And so when you're in a space like that, it's very difficult to remember that you are connected. Because really the reality is you're always connected. Like, that connection doesn't disappear. But when we experience certain things in this realm on this earth, when we go through some things, if we don't have the tools or the people around us to help us navigate that, sometimes those experiences can build a wall between us and that divine self. And we allow the experiences to become the stories that then play in our mind. And we allow those stories to then determine everything. Because it's not that the experience didn't happen, but it's our perception of it, our understanding of it, and how we filter that through that creates mental illness. And so then we forget that there's a source energy out there. My inner supply instantly and constantly takes on form and experience according to my needs and desires. But when we're in those states of mind, I'm sorry, just give me a second. Because what I'm feeling into is it takes time for us when we're going through these. So it's like I can feel it, but I don't have English for it. So I'm trying to find words. Let me start back. Mental illness is often a sign that we have been disconnected from that divinity that's within us. It's not that the connection is gone, but it's that our experiences have built this wall that's between us. And as I feel into it, a lot of what we've been taught religiously is part of this, but it's just, it gets so misconstrued and taken apart and turned into what we call sin. Right? This disconnect that we have from the divine self is not so much due to sin or our wrongdoing, but it's due to our forgetting and getting so caught up in what has happened to us in our life. That's part of the challenge of being human, is walking this tightrope between, and I've said this I think in another live stream, is walking this fine line between keeping this connection with our spiritual self and allowing the egoic self to keep us alive. And what happens, because especially we've stepped away from the way things used to be, in some ways that's good, and the ways of being connected to nature, which kept us connected to that spiritual piece of ourselves, that we've become so wrapped up in the ego and the human self, and we've become so dense. We become so dense, and it's like we've dropped hard like rock, that we have forgotten about that connection. We've also forgotten that sometimes, in order for us to move through something, it's not always up here. It's not always a happy thing. It's like when we were born, you know? Think about when you were born. It seems like it wasn't even a thing, right? But when you think about it, think about the mechanics of what happened. And if you'd like to go through this as an adult, you are literally chilling in your own space. you are then squeezed through other mechanisms that you have no control over. You are then squeezed and pushed through a canal that stretches just enough for your body to get through. Just enough to come into an environment that you have no knowledge of. It's cold. It's bright. There are noises happening. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what it must be like? Like, it's kind of quiet. You hear this, you hear the sounds that you're familiar with. And all of a sudden it's like one of those movie scenes, right? Where a person is like moving in slow motion and they hear everything like really slow. It sounds like it's underwater, and all of a sudden it speeds up and it's like whoosh. It's like that, right? So can you imagine you come into this world? Yes, there's a lot, and then there's a flurry of activity. There's just a lot going on, and that's your entrance into this realm. Oftentimes, when we're dealing with experiences and the stories in our mind, we got to go back in through a tunnel of sorts. We cannot ignore the thing and try to, like, I don't want to say pray it away, because it's not just about that. But it's like, I'm fine. This is, it's just a thing. Sometimes in order for us to deal with whatever is causing the mental illness, we got to go through a new canal, a new tunnel. We got to go into darkness, because there may be something that needs to be rebirthed in us, and we're trying to avoid it. We're trying to avoid it. And so we're stuck in this density, in the ego and in the body, and we don't want to experience whatever it is. But if we saw mental illness, if we saw depression, if we saw anxiety, panic attacks as a way for us to be reborn, as a way for us to shed something that we no longer need. If we could see it that way, how different might it be, and how different might we treat people who are currently working through mental illness? I don't like to say suffer from mental illness. It just it's brings this victim-y thing that I don't like. Even when I say I've experienced depression, but I'm not going to say I suffered from it. It's just the wording. It's so personal for me. So how might we treat people differently who are working through this rebirthing stage if we saw it that way? And not to make light of it, like I would never go to somebody and say, oh, you're depressed? Oh, girl, you're just rebirthing. I might not do that. But if I begin to approach it from that understanding, maybe I won't get so frustrated with people who are dealing with mental illness. Maybe I won't treat them a different way, or like there's something so wrong with them, or like they're sick, Not even sure I like the word mental illness, but that's what we call it, so that's what we got. But what if we saw it as a rebirthing process? And what if we saw it as a disconnect of the self from that divine source that's here to give us every experience that we ask for? Every experience, right? Everything that you could possibly imagine and ask for. And then the question becomes, what are you imagining and asking for? Because that divine mind, that activity is constantly going. It's constantly going. We limit it. It is unlimited. and I'm gonna go, but I got called out, not personally, but one of my teachers, Perry Chase, she wrote something. I can't remember exactly what the words were, but basically it said, like, if you're wanting something, but you're not open to receiving, she's like, yeah, how's that story working out for you? And I was like, damn it, because I noticed that I've been doing that, thinking about, right, the unlimited potential of the divine mind and whatever it is that you desire, you can have. And so one of my desires has been to move. And I realized that when I was looking through Zillow and Trulia the other day, first of all, I was sitting there feeling sad and sorry for myself because I couldn't afford the stuff I was looking at, right? It's number one. Number two, no, that's it. That's number one. Oh, number two is I was sitting there thinking, I can't afford this. And as I was doing it a couple of days ago, I caught myself, literally, I'm sitting there just scrolling through the screen, and I'm like, man, I can't afford this. And I was like, and it was like, literally, was like, whoa. Is that the energy you're putting out while you're looking at this? Is that really what's happening right now? And so now daily, my mantra is daily, I can afford to move anywhere I desire. And when I said it at first, I didn't feel it in my body because my ego was so used to the other thought process. It took me a minute to find the wording and to get it right where it was like, yeah, that's right. I can afford to move anywhere I desire. I was only limited by what I was thinking. So as you go into your day today, I'd like you to examine two things. One is, how are you limiting your thinking? How are you deciding what you can't do and what's not possible for you? And why are you making those determinations? Under what exactly are you deciding to put those limitations on yourself? The second part is, if you know anyone who's been working through dealing with mental illness, can you begin to see them and approach them differently? Can you begin to understand their journey differently? And can you have compassion for that journey? And the third is, if you have been dealing with or working through depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or anything like that, can you begin to see your journey differently? Can you find the support and strength and courage to go down into that canal? Can you begin to see your mental illness as the doorway for your rebirth? Can you give it that small little sliver? Can you look at it and go, can you smile at it a little bit? Crazy, I know, right? But people already think you're crazy, so what does it matter? And go, my depression is the doorway to my new me. And can you start to feel that differently in your body and then respond to it differently? My mental illness is the doorway to the new me. It's my rebirthing. It's my snake shedding skin. If you can just start there with that and just repeat that daily, see how it might help you begin to shift what you do and how you see yourself. That's it for today. Thank you for sitting with me while I worked through this and allowed whatever it was to have to work its way literally up my spine and out my mouth. And sometimes it happens that way. So thank you all for joining me this morning. Thank you for watching the replay. Thank you for watching wherever you're watching it at. I appreciate you. I love you. And I want you to go out there and have a fucking abundant day. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.